Hey, this is Max Dennison for another session of Tech Talks. I got a great guest today coming by the way of Atlanta. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, but I got Torrance Evans. He is the chapter lead for Black Boys Code in Atlanta. He's also an engineer for JP Morgan. We're going to get into his story. We're also going to learn, get his opinion on tech, being a male in tech, also being an African American male in tech, and kind of follow his lead. So, Torrance, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the audience, and then after that, we'll get into your story.
So hey everybody, my name's Torrance Evans. Like he said, um, happy to be here. I'm a software engineer, and just looking to help any way I can.
All right, all right. So yeah, thanks again, T, for jumping on. Well, let me say Torrance because I ain't even get the approval to say T, but I just shortened everybody's. Thank you, man, for joining. I appreciate it. I have followed you on social media. I've seen you making a lot of moves in Atlanta and doing some really good work. And I said I think this would be a great interview. Um,
Mm.
so T, just to kind of start the interview, I'm going to get right into it. Have you always seen yourself in tech?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, I kind of just moving to Atlanta. There's a lot of tech around here. There's a lot of successful, just black people. And so I kind of just got in the mix. I went to a conference, just trying to go to. Somebody told me just come hang out, but it was full of people in tech, full of engineers and data engineers and program managers and things like that. And so that kind of opened my eyes to it about 2.5 years ago.
So you're kind of you would say like a late bloomer to tech.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I'm still blooming actually. So yeah.
No problem, no problem. So I think that's good because a lot of people, we always talk about, high school students, younger people transitioning into tech, but we don't talk a lot about career changes, career switches, and people joining late or just saying, you know what, I want to do something different. So you go to this mixer.
Yeah.
Um, that's still, we go to a lot of mixers in Atlanta. What made you turn the corner? What made you say, hey, I'm going to jump into tech?
Well, really, I was an entrepreneur, so I moved here from Illinois. And I was just doing business. My best friend was here, so I was doing a few different ventures. But I mean, it was cool to live, but I just wanted to do bigger things. And I had people, I have parents who are professionals, and they did both. They had jobs, and they, had a great job. And beforehand, I was like, oh, I'm never getting a job, and all this stuff like that. But then I was like, I mean, I'm doing it backwards. They feeding their jobs. I mean, they feeding their businesses with their jobs. So I was like,
Mm.
I should probably do that too. That'd be a more smarter way of doing business. So I was like, man, I can't really just after being on doing your own thing and being able to do what you want to do for a couple of years, you can't just really just do a regular job now. So I was like, maybe I'll do something that I respect, something that's cool, something that I never thought I could do. Because I mean, I'm already in Atlanta. I'm already in Atlanta, just doing business on my own. That's already something I didn't think I could do. So I might as well keep it going. So I said I'm gonna try to be an engineer. So I was like, and then I just went from there.
Now, that takes a lot of courage because just making the decision to get into tech, there's so many people afraid about it. I think we talked a little bit offline about there's people that have fears. And then engineering is just not like the easiest thing to jump into.
Yeah,
So I know you said you were at the mixer, there were data analysts, there were program managers, probably UX, UI design. How
yeah,
did you to be an engineer? How did you choose your profession or what did you look at to make that decision?
yeah. Well, so I chose it because, like I said, I was an entrepreneur. I'm still very business minded, and so tech is like at the top of every business. Tech is the leader in all businesses. It's the leader in all companies. So I was like, I mean, I probably should do something in tech, and I probably should do something where I could build some stuff. So that's where I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a software engineer because they're the foundation of tech. So
Nice, nice, nice. So, okay, you to make this decision that you're going to become an engineer. How does your journey start? Do you immediately apply for jobs? Do you do boot camp? Go back to school?
Well, it started like everything I learned that was useful started on YouTube. So I just
Mm.
started YouTube and everything, just learning different things on YouTube, seeing which ways I could take to really get in and which ways that fit me. So that's how I started on YouTube. I just started. I picked a few people that I would just watch, and from there I led me to some resources like Codecademy, freecodecamp.org, um, things like that. And so that's how I started, and I just learned my first language on there, and then it went from there.
Got you, got you. So if you were to talk to even a high school student, because now
Mhm.
you can deductively think, you could look backwards and try to give somebody some advice. Would you
Mhm.
tell they'll go through the YouTube? And is there any particular YouTube videos that you would encourage them to watch?
So high school students.
High school, or even if it's an adult watching, because I get people who message me all the time because I'm always posting content or posting job interviews similar
Yeah.
to. I kind of just do it on my social media, and they
hmm
want to tell them to do this thing, to kind of jump on YouTube, or is there any particular videos that you would encourage them to watch?
Well, if you're in high school, I would just say finish and go to college and get a computer science degree because it makes your journey a
Mm,
lot easier. But if you're a pivoter, it's real difficult. So if you're a pivoter and or you're just trying to get in, I would say definitely watch some YouTube videos on how to dress your LinkedIn up real nice. Um, I watched this YouTube with this guy named Taylor Dessian and Danny. I forgot his name, but I can get it. I can get it for you later. But it basically was tells you how to make your LinkedIn look good to recruiters if you're in tech or if you're an engineer, and that's where I started. And then um, from there I really just dove into like the courses, to really
mm.
learn, really get that first language under my belt.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, get in there. You're getting your first languages. What's the next step? What happens next?
So after that, or for me, or just for someone, for me,
No,
for me.
for you. Mhm.
Okay. So after that, I from YouTube, I learned that you got to do a lot of networking. So I was networking. I was going to different events, just to really find somebody who could help me, really, because I didn't really know it was a lot of Black people that were engineers until I started going outside. So I'm thinking I'm kind of in my own world, but I was like, wow, it's really people who do this. So so I started networking, and then um, just learned. I kept learning languages. I started, getting people I could call on to just help me or point me in different directions. And then from there, I just got into a boot camp. So I started looking for boot camps because, man, you realize one thing too is don't try to do it on your own because you realize when you start going down rabbit holes that there's so many ways you can go. There's so much tech out there, so many things you could learn, and you'll get caught up learning, three different things that don't even go together. Okay, so that won't even
Mm,
really help you. So you definitely got to have somebody pointing in your direction. So I realized that. So I was like, okay, I need to get a boot camp, so somebody could help me and point me in the directions I need to learn. So I was able to test into a boot camp to where they pay for it.
mm,
Um, so that was just a program that came along. So I was really blessed with that. And so went through the boot camp. It was 3 months, 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. So definitely was some sacrifice. So yeah, I graduated the boot camp, and then I just did a lot of networking because when you like when you pivot in, you're like you kind of like at the bottom because entry level is going to go to new grads or interns, and the jobs you trying to get, people have already been in the industry 5, 10 years. So you kind of got to know people, and you kind of got to be able to have somebody see in you what wouldn't show up on your resume because you don't have any experience. So
mm.
you really gotta network, you really gotta meet people, and you really gotta do stuff to kind of show that you're doing stuff. So um, yeah, that's where I'm from there.
Got you. And I want to back up just a little bit because there's always the kind of debate from self-taught tech people versus people who go to school. If you had it all to do again and you were graduating high school, would you do a bunch of boot camps to save on college loan debt, or would you? Well, hopefully you could get a scholarship. But if there's basically two routes. You could go computer science degree route, which you spoke about, or you could go boot camp route. What would be your advice to two young, if you had two young high school students in front of you and they said, hey, we're thinking about getting a computer engineer. One is saying, I want to do boot camps. One is saying college. Would you say the degree, or do you think that the boot camps are useful?
I would I mean, boot camps are useful, but it's beginning to get very saturated. So a lot of people are coming out of boot camps, and so companies aren't really respecting boot camps like they were. I mean, they do. It's just you got to have a lot more with boot camp. Is like we'll only get you like one eye open to them. It's like
Mm,
okay, you did a boot camp, um, so you kind of got to have a lot more, probably like a extensive portfolio, and you got to come in knowing a lot more. Um, so I would definitely say go if you're young enough, and I would definitely say go for a degree because if you get a degree, they coming in ready to teach you. So your interview's not going to be as hard. They're not going to expect you to know a bunch of things. You're not competing against people who've been in the industry, 5, 10 years. So everybody's new when you come in. So and they're expecting you to just work hard, and they're gonna teach you. They're gonna mold you. But when you go to boot camp route, you kind of unless you find a good program, you kind of got to come in knowing just as much as a seasoned engineer, which will be hard to do if you don't have experience.
got you. Got you. Great advice. All right. So you finish your boot camp, you're networking. You don't just land in JP Morgan. And I want to get into that and your day to day
Mhm.
and how you got
Yeah.
there. What happens next? Do you work at a couple startups? What happens in between that time, or did you go right into this position?
Um, I did a lot of I was able to put the boot camp on my resume. I did some little small internships with some startups. Really just trying to see what was going on, what I make you expect. It wasn't very extensive. Um, I joined a lot of groups. I did a lot of volunteer stuff. That's where Black Boys Code came in. Um, but I really just, it was really, man, it was so difficult that I really was just doing so much to just keep myself from feeling like I wasn't doing anything, because you can kind of get caught in that. You can get depressed real easy because it's tough. So I was really just trying to do whatever I could just to get back with 1% better every day, really.
Mm,
That's how I started posting on LinkedIn because I was like, I got to do something, So so and I was studying lead code. I don't know if you're familiar with lead code, but it basically simulates engineering interviews. So I was doing that every day, and yeah, just basically going to every event I could, any event that pop up on LinkedIn or Meetup, Eventbrite, someone send it to me, I would just go to it. Hmm.
gotcha. So you get the interview, and you're hired. Can you tell us a little bit about the interview process? And if
Hmm.
somebody went behind you and they were going to interview and they were in the same position, kind of new, maybe a newbie or a transition person transitioning over. Tell us a little bit about what the interview looked like. Was it difficult, and how you would, if you were to train somebody, I guess, to prepare for it, what would you tell them to work on?
So what I would do is I would tell them definitely get the technical part down first. Well, I don't know if you can really ever get it down, but get to a point where you're confident. They got this platform called Leak Code, which if you're an engineer, you probably know about it. But it's thousands of interview questions on there, technical interview questions that you can solve, and they're divided into easy, medium, hard. Um, and I would just be on there as much as possible, do a couple problems every day. Um, because it's thousands of problems, thousands of things they can ask you. So I would definitely try to tell them to just really get comfortable doing those. And then, I mean, just like any regular interview, just research the company, know a few facts about it, and know about the position. But the most important thing, when you're in engineering, is making sure you can pass the technical interview for sure.
To the technical interview. So, being that you were able to pass the technical interview, what what do you need to know, I guess, on the technical interview, or what would you think? How did you know you were ready? I guess so. Like if somebody's at home and they're doing a lead code and they're knocking the problems out, are they ready? Or like, how did you know I'm ready to apply? I'm ready for an interview. And looking back on it now, if you could do the interview again, what would you have worked?
Um, I really didn't know if I was ready for real. I mean, because the thing about you don't know what they're gonna ask you. You just got to be confident in the work you put in. So and then one thing too is that they gauge your ability to problem solve. So sometimes they want to hit you with something you don't know how to solve, just so they can see how you go about solving. Like you
Mm,
don't necessarily have to get the problem right, but they want to see how you go about solving problems. Can you talk through the problem? Are you going to go silent? Are you going to keep communicating and be a team player and things like that? So those are very important things to know and to do. Also. Um, I use this platform called Brilliant Black Minds, and that platform it gave you just unlimited mock interviews, and so I
mm.
utilized that a lot, and which is how I was able to get the intangibles needed, really to pass an interview. Because once you learn how to pass an interview, then you got to know how to pass an interview with flying colors. So you gotta know, you gotta learn how to talk through your problem, repeat the problem to make sure you have understanding, ask clarifying questions, things like that.
Got you, got you, got you. Okay, so you're dropping a lot of good links. So I want to put these on for your interview when we do edit and put it up. I
Mhm.
appreciate Lee Code, Brilliant
Mhm.
Black Mind, freecodecamp.org. You dropped a few since we jumped on the interview. Okay, so you get the job, you pass with flying colors. What is your day to day? What does your day to day look like? What does your team look like? Are you working individually, and how has that been?
Man, it's been definitely just a big eye opener. I mean, it's definitely great that I had a lot of, I guess, tutelage and mentorship from just various people I met throughout the journey that just tell you about this thing called uh, what is it called? What's it called when you just get in the position and you feel like you're not supposed to be there?
Oh,
Yeah, imposter syndrome, his imposter syndrome.
mhm,
So yeah, I was feeling. I mean, good thing I had a lot of talks about that before I got the job, because it would have hit me hard in this job. But I
mhm.
think it's a good thing to learn and know that everybody's still trying to figure it out, even when they've been on the job 5, 10 years. So that's been a good help. And my team helps me a lot. My manager is very helpful. They're not expecting me to come in and knock it out of the park. So I'm really just focused on learning and everything right now. But it's been great. Um, it's definitely a challenge, So I've been happy to come up and get up and go to work. So that's cool too.
Are you you don't have to answer, but are you remote? Are you hybrid? Because I know some companies are, there's all different type of tweets and stuff from Elon
Well,
Musk.
hybrid. So I come
Okay,
in 3 days a week.
gotcha, gotcha. And
Mhm.
I think most companies are doing that right now since the pandemic. Does that work for you? Do you feel like that's a benefit, or do you feel like you would benefit more in person every day where you can ask more questions? Like, how does that work?
No, it works for me. I mean, they're accessible, even when we're
Mhm.
not in office. So it works for me. But they could have told me to come in 6 days a week. I would have came because where I was at, saying grinding, trying to get a job, I'm cool, whatever. So
That's
yeah.
nice. Nice. So, okay. So you're working, you love it. Now that you have the position, what natural abilities that somebody watching this may have that you feel like have helped you in the position? Mine
Mhm.
is you had to learn the technical, maybe the Python or whatever language you guys are using, but what kind of skill set that did you bring personally that is helping you in a position that if somebody else is watching, you think would be helpful if they wanted to become an engineer?
Um, I think I mean, well, grew up playing basketball, so I brought a lot of things I learned in basketball just to the professional world, just like work ethic. I mean, attention to detail, things like that.
Mm,
Um, Grit, not quitting. I needed a lot of that getting to the job. But I would say a very important thing is um, you got to just be willing to do what it takes to win. I mean, because I guess in my journey, I was like, at the beginning, I was like, man, I don't really want to go out here and talk to all these people. I don't really want to network. I'm naturally
mm,
an introverted person, so I wasn't really. I really didn't like the fact that I had to go through all of this to get a job, you know. But
mm,
I mean, on the upside was, the upside was worth it. But I was like, do I really got to do all this? But it's like you're either gonna do what it takes to win, or you're not. I mean, you really can't complain or anything if you're not going to give your best effort to get to where you're trying to go. So you might as well not do it. So I really had to learn to, become something that I wasn't used to. So I became
mm.
more, extrovert, I guess, in a way, talk to people, tell them my story, tell them I'm looking for a job. And I began to be more active on social media and things like that. So um, I would say, yeah, you really just got to learn to just do whatever you need to do to get the job done.
Got you. Got you. Good advice. Now I'm gonna ask one more question, and I'm gonna pivot a little bit into the Black Boys Code and more of the questions about youth. I guess my last question. You said you're still kind of a bloomer, and you're learning as you're working.
Yeah.
Balance that. Somebody that's in a new position, like yourself. How do you learn? I mean, you know what you know, and that was enough to obviously get the position. But how do you take all of that in, learn the new stuff, and keep being better? How does that work?
I mean, well, so to me, you only did enough to get the job. So now you got to learn things to keep the job. Now you got to learn things to excel at the job. So you really just started from scratch again, started from zero again, so I'm cool with that. I mean, I'm happy to really just keep learning more, but you definitely got to come into, new levels, just knowing that I'm at zero again, and I need to, put in the work, put in the time to get to the next level. So yeah.
Got you. Great, great. All right, so I want to pivot a little bit before we jump off into your work. You're a chapter lead for Black Boys Code. I want to talk a little bit also about youth in general in tech. So tell me a little bit about what you do at Black Boys Code, what Black Boys Code is, and what you guys are working on.
Okay, yeah. So Black Boys Code is an organization out of Canada. They have about 11, 12 chapters. Atlanta is the first chapter in the U.S., and then they just started one in L.A. But Atlanta is basically like the U.S. hub, and we basically just meet once a month, maybe preferably the third or fourth Saturday every month, and just teach kids, the basics of technology, coding, different languages like Python and Java, and basically open their eyes and kind of want to just show them all the opportunities that you know deal with tech, which is good because I had no idea about it at their age. I didn't know all the opportunities. I didn't know all the money in it. I didn't know just anything. I just looked at a TV and thought it worked. I didn't know why a computer worked. So it's cool that to be able to give back in that way. But it's also cool that they know a lot. Um, so yeah, but that's basically what it is.
So what's the age group you guys serve, and how do you guys recruit for?
Recruit as in the
Like bring
students,
yeah,
the kids.
do
So
you guys or do you do your own recruiting? How does it work?
yeah, so it's eight through 17. usually.
Mhm.
And I mean, really just send it out on Eventbrite. I mean, I kind of try to do my own promotion, but we've been doing it a while, so you get a lot of reoccurring kids, and kids bring kids, and things like that. So um, it's really just Eventbrite, LinkedIn, word of mouth.
Gotcha, gotcha. And obviously, tech is the future. We know it's a lucrative space in general, all the way around. Like I always tell people, everybody who I know who transitioned into tech, their trajectory was always amazing if they stuck with it. Whether it
Mhm.
was people they got to meet, or the money they earned, or the careers they were ended up having, there was always some great trajectory. Even people who didn't like do really uh, if they didn't have like a really big tech background. I always say I was in a boot camp myself. It was a guy who was a waiter, and like he's making like 90K now. And he was
Mhm.
like 27K when we joined the boot camp, man. So like his trip was insane. Um, how do we get young people? Because we know the numbers and the percentages at these tech companies, right? Are often less than 10%. How do you think we get the young people interested?
Mhm. Um, I think really with the facts, like a lot of people in tech make a lot more money than their favorite actors or musicians,
Mm,
entrepreneurs. I mean, that's facts. I mean, I try to tell the truth to kids. Like, if you want to make some money when you get older, you should go this way. So,
right.
like, I tell the truth. Like, so I mean, I don't really try to say, oh, you need to really love it and things like that. I mean, you can do this and fund something you do love. So
Mm, mm,
um, but I think definitely tell them the truth about tech, and definitely just also let them know that you can do this. Like, because when I was growing up, I never looked at tech because I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think that I can even get a chance. I just didn't think I was smart enough. Like, I thought it
mm.
was for the white people, the Asians, the Indians. I didn't really see myself in that world, and I didn't never seen anybody else in that world. So
Yeah.
that was just really just being representation, and just tell them that you could do this. There's people like you here in these positions, and then I think that helps too.
I was gonna say I definitely think exposure and seeing somebody who looks like you, sounds like you, talks like you, plays basketball in
Hmm.
your community is definitely important. And talking to them. Um, do you think uh, how do we get there? So we tell the truth, absolutely. But how do we pull more into even knowing? Because uh, oftentimes, you know, because we do similar things up here, right? We're getting kids to code in the neighborhood, but we're always competing with athletics, right? And it's hard to compete with Steph Curry and LeBron James, or one of these NFL players. How do you think, or what would be your strategy, or what is your strategy with Black Boys Code when you're competing with athletics and things like that and still being truthful?
Um, what do you mean when you say compete? I mean, you mean like with their, I guess the way they're thinking.
So like, yeah, because so one thing, like we're in Steeler country, right? This is Pittsburgh. Everybody loves the Steelers. So the kids who come to us during Steeler season are diehard computer people.
Mhm.
Uh, but when you have kids, right? Because I try to have the conversation with them of you got a better chance of becoming a software engineer than you do an NBA player, which statistically is just factual, right? But
Mhm.
how make it interesting, because if they have to choose between basketball, football, and coming to code with me, they oftentimes pick the athletics. So
Mhm.
your position, how do you have that conversation with them and still be truthful, but like what's your strategy towards that?
I would say, if it's like if it's something in school, or maybe if it's not in school, but if it's some class they could take in school or go to college, I would say you do both. You can do
Mm,
both. because whatever you learn in sports will definitely put you ahead of people who don't play sports in tech. And I'll say you don't have to choose. You could do both, but if that don't work out, you got this, you got tech, and you still gonna have a great life, So I would try to push them to both, because there's nothing wrong with really just going after a dream, but and it helps. It helps. They work. I think they work together because they work together well for me, because a lot of technical people, they're not really the best speakers, or they're not really the best, they don't work well in teams and things
Yep.
like that. And that's, second nature to me. I'm a team player. I've been playing on teams all my life. So that definitely will help you in tech. So I was just trying to get them to do both. I think if you dress up as both and not saying and not lead as you have to pick one, um, I think they'll be more inclined, because if you're in school, you might as well just take that class anyway. Or if you go to college, you might as well do computer science anyway if you're gonna study something. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna give you a chance to say, drop your information, ask you a little bit about, your mentor and all of that. Um, in the future. So my last question leaving out is, what's your plans for the future? How do you see tech in the future?
Hmm.
And then also, if you can think of any courses, backtracking that you made for the younger people who are in high school, is there any classes that you would encourage? Like, let's just say you had a son or a nephew or a niece, and they were in high school and they're like, "Hey, I want to be an engineer like you." Any classes? So it's two questions. Where do you see the future of tech? And if you could give advice to a younger person, um, what classes would you encourage them to take in high school,
Hmm.
that better prepare them even for their freshman year in college for computer science?
Hmm. Well, I think definitely like the future is in machine learning, artificial intelligence. Uh, I mean, that's very evident with all the big companies going that route, and the small companies going that route. But definitely on a lower level, data, because you need data to use AI and machine learning. So data engineering, data analysts, data scientists. Um, I think those are where people should focus if they're trying to get in. But software engineers is a good place too. So I think it's definitely going that route. It's even there now. Um, and what I would encourage, I would encourage any computer science class, any class where you're learning a language or you're learning the fundamentals of computer science. I would encourage those classes. I don't even know if they had those in my high school, so I can't say what exactly classes, but I'm hearing from the kids now is they have real computer science classes where you learn languages and things like that. So I would definitely encourage that, and yeah, that's what I would definitely encourage.
Got you. So before we leave, again, thank you, Torrance, for doing the interview. Where could people find you? Do you have any upcoming Black Kids Code courses, maybe in Atlanta? Is there anything virtual? Um,
Mm.
just leave your information and anything that may be available for the public, and any links that you have, we'll try to put in your story when we edit it.
Okay. Well, I'm Torrance Evans on everything. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Connect with everybody who sends me a request. My Instagram is Torrance Evans, Facebook Torrance Evans. So yeah, and we just had a workshop last Saturday, past Saturday. So for Black Boys Code, and we do it every last Saturday. So if you're in Atlanta, sign your kids up, pull up. Also, if you go on the website, they do have virtual classes for kids. So, but they're in different regions, but they do have virtual classes too. So,
Got you. Hey, Torrance, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for showing up. Please go
yes, sir.
support Black Boys Code. And if you have any questions, please reach out to him. That's going to end it for another Tech Talks, man. I want to thank everybody for joining. I hope you guys learned something. If you didn't, come back and listen again.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Peace.